Welcome back to Jesus or Muhammad, and I just want to say real quickly, I think we still have Manu on the air. Manu, are you still with us? Manu, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Manu. Manu, I want these gentlemen to just respond quickly to what you said, and then we are going to give you more time to speak before we move to our next caller. So just please be patient with us. Thank you for your patience so far. Manu has basically stated that I asked Manu, I've challenged Manu on the air here, please explain to us, let's just say an atheist comes up to Manu, a Muslim, why should I accept Muhammad as a prophet and not accept Joseph Smith? What credentials does Muhammad have as a prophet that Joseph Smith does not? Now, we're going to let Manu finish in just a moment, but so far, Manu has said, and I've written him down, that Muhammad was a very decent person, he was a very good man, he was very honest, he was good in business, and then, of course, they turned on him, and then just before the break, he was saying, and he had this miraculous book, he was illiterate, and he had all these, what was it, information, or all these particular things that how could he know about? That's where the break came. Can you, Glenn, and you, David, just speak to what he said so far, and then we'll let Manu finish with his defense of why Muhammad should be a prophet when Joseph Smith is not. Brother Glenn.
The Mormons also claim that Joseph Smith was uneducated. How could he come up with the Book of Mormon apart from the gift and power of God?
So exactly the same as Islam. And also, as we mentioned earlier in the program, what did the Mormons claim to be the one miracle of Joseph Smith?
Delivering the Book of Mormon, the revelations after that.
So exactly the same as Muhammad. Brother David.
Now, I just want to draw a parallel with the argument because Mormons will say the exact same thing. Look at all this is an entire book. This is an entire book filled with all these facts and details that he couldn't possibly have known because he wasn't educated. Well, the problem is when you go to those facts and details, many of them turn out to be wrong, but that doesn't seem to faze Mormons. But it's the exact same thing when we turn to Islam. Muhammad gives a bunch of facts and details. Many of them are wrong. Doesn't seem to affect Muslims. But you have the same general pattern. He's uneducated. He could never have come up with this entire book. Problem is, Joseph Smith came up with a lot more text than Muhammad did. So all the more you should believe in Joseph Smith, not Muhammad. Muhammad came up with a little passage here and a little passage there over a period of 23 years. But I want to address Manu's other point, namely that Muhammad was, he had such a good character, and he said this is the difference. Because our question was, why should we believe in Muhammad over Joseph Smith?
Right.
If Manu had to explain this to someone, how would he explain it? And he said, there is a difference, namely that Muhammad was recognized as a really good guy. Well, I'll read you some of the witnesses of Joseph Smith. Joseph was a prophet of, this comes from a woman named Emily Partridge Young. She says, Joseph was a prophet of God and a friend of man. His was a noble character. All who knew him can testify to that assertion. Everyone who knew Muhammad can testify to the fact that he had, yes, everyone who knew Joseph Smith can testify to the fact that he had a noble character. He was all that the word gentleman would imply. Pure in heart, always striving for right, upholding innocence, and battling for the good of all. If I didn't know better, I would assume that came from Sahih al-Bukhari in a description of Muhammad.
Now, Manu, we're going to let you finish, and let me remind you, you have a unique opportunity here. You being a Muslim can now proselytize thousands by explaining to them why Muhammad should be accepted as a prophet when Joseph Smith is not. We've heard what you've said so far. Please complete the picture for us.
What Muslim show allows Christians to come and proselytize? What Muslim show allows Christians to come on air and proselytize? But we will.
We're giving Manu some free airtime. Go ahead, Manu.
Actually, Quran's position is that really it's God who will guide whoever He wants. And the way I've understood it is that if somebody has a right judgment, and if they're fair-minded, God will draw them to Himself, and He will guide them, and they get stronger in faith, and they grow. The reason, last night somebody made a comment, they said, why did it take him 20 years to understand this book? The reason is that it's the same example. A first-day Christian or first-week Christian is not the same as the Pope. So this book, if you contemplate in it, and if you read it, different parts, it's a coherent message. The message is that has always been a theology or a religion gets established in a community. Once established, it's very hard to uproot it. A messenger is sent by God to preach to that community if they have gone astray from the right path. Usually that messenger going to be opposed or they're going to be rejected. Almost every single time, and the only messenger who was not was Jonah. And that's a very subtle point, but that's the only point that Quran says, that all the messengers more or less were rejected except the group that Jonah went to. So if you look at all these subtle things, if Muhammad didn't want the glory of God, he wanted his own glory, he wouldn't have been able to put together all these subtle points in the Quran. And the only person who can convince you of it is God, and the only person who can really help you is God if you be fair-minded and read this book without distortion and with right judgment.
So, Manu, your argument is that the only reason that any atheist, secular person not committed to any religion, or anyone with a fair mind, the only reason that they should accept Muhammad as a prophet over Joseph Smith is that the Quran is so subtle and has so many wonderful, coherent intricacies, and apparently you're implying that the Book of Mormon does not, and therefore Muhammad's a prophet and Joseph Smith is not. Is that your argument?
Since I'm not really familiar, I've never read the Book of Mormon, I cannot comment on it. But
well, then if that's your argument, though, if you haven't read the Book of Mormon, and that's your argument, then you do not know if Joseph Smith is a prophet or not. If that's the only basis, the only criterion upon which you are differentiating Muhammad's claim to prophethood and Joseph Smith's claim of prophethood, and you have not read the Book of Mormon, then according to what you're telling us, then Joseph Smith may be a prophet.
In order to be, as a secular person, one should be fair-minded and say that I have to investigate every religion, and then, based on reasoning, a careful study and analysis, would reject it or accept it. However, since we're talking about Christianity and Islam, I haven't gone anything further than Islam to see all the other people. So
okay, well, Manu, I know we really do like you, and we like to talk with you and interact and give you time, but for time's sake, that's basically your argument, that Muhammad is a prophet, and it is mainly because of the miracle of the Quran, and that's what differentiates him from, say, Joseph Smith, or the fellow who started the Ahmadiyya sect, or whoever else Islam would claim as a false prophet. That's basically your argument, is that right?
That is correct. The Quran also presents that challenge. It says, bring 10 chapters like Quran, and if you don't, fear the fire. That's the Quran challenge.
Okay, Manu. Now realize we've given you a great opportunity here to tell the world why they should believe in Muhammad as a prophet. And thank you so much for calling, and we hope to hear from you again very soon. I want some commentary on Manu's argument, and then we have to go to the next caller for time's sake. Thank you, Manu, and good night. Brother David, would you like to comment on what appeared to me, this is just my personal opinion, a very, very weak argument? If I was a secular person, I would say, what kind of argument is that?
What part were you referring to?
Well, I mean, his whole argument, the entire argument of Manu, that we should accept Muhammad instead of Joseph Smith is because he brought the Quran, and the Quran is so beautiful. And then I asked him, well, what about the Book of Mormon? And he says, well, I don't know, I haven't read it. This is the only reason that someone should accept Muhammad, just because of the beauty and the coherence of the Quran?